Hi, this is Robert Cornicelli,
Awesome.
National President for Veterans for America First. And I start off all these interviews, all these endorsements with almost the same line because what makes my job so easy is the fact that most of the time I'm interviewing and endorsing veterans. And that's an honor just in the fact that you're endorsing veterans. But the guy I'm about to endorse or interview and endorse right now is a real hero. This guy is the real deal. And you have to go to Commander Furman, FURMAN.com, and check out this guy. This is the real deal, man. Commander, and I'm going to call you now all through your congressional life and your Senate life, and maybe even in the White House life one day. You'll always be commander to me. So welcome.
I love it. I love it. I know you're a captain in the Army, but I have a soft heart for chief petty officers who actually run the Navy. We just take credit and get out of their way.
Yeah.
Like getting good organization, leadership through facilitation is the best. And so thanks for your service. It's an honor here. This is an organization that endorsed me early on last campaign. I retired very quickly at the end of my service, 28 years total service. I was a vaccine mandate whistleblower. In the August, I was the first guy to stand up and say, this doesn't look right, smell right, no matter what we think or even know at this point on the medicine. But it was forced through. And, Secretary Lloyd Austin, I think, got bad information, and they just ramshot it like, all right, troops, bolt this on. And I said, hold on, wait a minute. I'm reading the fine print here. The insert in the vaccine says it's experimental. So let's have that conversation so we don't put everybody in one experimental group flying our airplanes and tanks and all that. So we don't, we can still fight our wars and defend our beautiful country. And that got really interesting in my career. And so after blowing the whistle, and I marched all over Capitol Hill trying to find allies or just really advocates to hear me out in that conversation because I wasn't getting it in uniform. I bowed out very quickly, retired inside of a month, some kind of record, I think. But I was assigned to the Pentagon. Doesn't make it easier. But I was a little disenchanted, to be honest, because I felt like, oh, wait a minute. I'm a 28-year naval aviator. I began actually right out of high school flight school, Black Hawk driver, warrant officer. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm 5 generations military. This is, it's my identity. But you know what, sir, it was an amazing wake-up call for me personally. And I'll take a little personal quick sidestep here. It made me think, okay, Lord, what am I standing on? Where is my identity wrought? And that was a good little sort of, little gut check there. Bible study friend of mine, in fact, said, hey, Jay, you need another fight soon because that's you don't want to become, sullen in this, find another worthy cause. In fact, I've got one for you. That was part of his sales pitch because he had an organization called Untrafficked, chased child sex traffickers, got old operators and intel types to surgically pinpoint these, they're worse than terrorists. And we went after it. And I said, look, I'm from Texas. I'm retiring out of the Pentagon, but, my Texas, I understand, is, under siege at the border. Let's go look at that and see what the intersection is to child sex trafficking and the border invasion, and what was really, coming into its own at the time of an insurgency. And so we went down there, and it took me about a week to figure out after I did so back to my career, so you understand the context. I was a naval aviator, as said, but I was also a foreign area officer. So after I got done driving the E-6B Mercury nuclear command and control asset for the Navy, I then the ship captain that I was with at the time said, you know what, you're doing great at these port calls, helping us host, the foreign emissaries and all the like on board. I was one of his officers of the deck underway. He said, yeah, why don't you be a foreign area officer? You seem to flourish in the world. It's like, but I like to fly. He said, but they're doing both. He's like, I've got it on good authority that we're making flying foreign area officers. I said, that sounds amazing. So I went and signed up, went to Monterey Naval Postgrad School and Defense Language Institute. And so I shifted. So I brought that experience to the border, and I was shocked. The second half of my career as a foreign area officer, I went to the worst places. I was in Central African Republic. That's like, that's heart of darkness, sort of warfare. They're cutting hearts out of their enemies and eating it. Sorry to do that, but we're we're mostly warriors listening here. And so I went to the border and I was like, wait a minute. I've seen this before. It rhymes. I've got the same smell in the nostrils. This is weaponized mass migration. I saw this in a couple of borders in Africa. I understood that through, in the West, every empire is kind of imploded in the same way, inside out, Trojan horse attack, if you will. And I started telling that story. And we thought, okay, how can we tell this story loudest? So we developed a documentary. We're going to follow these poor girls, after they were, released from that bondage. And then they would kind of walk the trail with us. And we were building the documentary. I don't know why it happened now, but that was yanked out from under us a week from going into production. I had attracted like David Cameron level producer to do this, other give us heart, a director the same, a front camera woman who's now a major newscaster on News Nation. We had it set up, and I was making all the relationships. My foreign area officer sort of, bag of tricks, sheriffs to mayors to, whatever, all the like up and down the border. And I had a lot of friends because I'm from Texas that I reactivated those networks. So I got on it. That thing went away. We're going to tell a story. I said, they just got hired away last minute, and it kind of imploded. And I thought, well, what are we doing here, God? So I went back to D.C. My family was still there. I was deployed on the border, if you will. And we'd retired, but I still had kids in high school. And so we left them in place, and I was going back and forth. So, I had America First, Stephen Miller's group, friends in that group who had helped me in the vaccine mandate fight. And we got together on occasion. They'd invite me out to things. They pushed me in front of little podiums, and annoyingly. But they said, why don't you run for Congress? I said, that's crazy. I stopped them right there. We're done with this conversation. I've been in D.C. twice. I've seen the job. I've met the people. I don't want anything to do with that. They're eating out of, both sides are eating out of our trough. It's a feeding frenzy up here, and it's corrupt as heck. But when I went to the border and then connected those two things, I kept on saying, no, no, no. And I thought, wait a minute, that's totally related. And I need to go to the place where it has the biggest leverage on this problem, because we're running out of time. We're going to run out of, run out of downs. And as a country, because I knew you were a chapter away from seeing the border from really imploding. It's kind of the slow phase and the fast phase. We have 25 million in here. That's a president's number. I agree with them 100%. We have wolves in sheep's clothing everywhere. And you know what? I keep telling people, hey, the bad guys, the baddies don't self-identify. They don't say, hey, I'm going to make an attack next week. Here's the time and location. Only through sophisticated surveillance we can do that. But that's like, shooting a bear, or not shooting a bear. That's the opposite. That's, just fishing in a deep ocean and hoping to get just the right fish. So it's hard. And we have that challenge. We have to do mass migration, all that stuff. But so I went and I finally threw my hat in the ring, and I drew a bead on the political forehead of the biggest political terrorist on the border, Henry Cuellar. He legendary. He has Barbie as a silent partner. He's absolutely corrupt as corrupt can be. The most produce bad, the most money bad, and the most people and move through that border. And not the right kind of people coming through. They're being trafficked, or they're trying to gain entry. So we ran at them really hard. We almost won. We were winning till 11 p.m. the night of the general election, and people were shocked. And then last minute drop. They did this little feint maneuver. Webb County's infamous, like LBJ level. In fact, it's kind of LBJ's old stomping ground where he gained his entry into Senate. That's near one of my counties was Duval County, and the famous Box 13. If you remember the story of how LBJ got elected, but so. And Roger Stone wrote that a great book on that, by the way. I'll plug him. So it turned into a grudge match at that point. I no longer was like I'm going at a target. I'm going to win. I almost won with almost no money. I raised every dollar. I put all my own money into the race because my wife and I reasoned, look, if we don't have a place to invest in for our kids' future, if the ground under us is not ours, it doesn't matter. And we've seen this before. We understand 1% do the 99% of work, and we filled a coal. So we honored that in the best way we could. I don't know why we lost that again. Again, things I'm trying to add up into this moment now, which seems to be adding up now. We lost, but we lost because we weren't, as said, on ES&S ballots. Or actually, I said that in the last interview just now. But so first day of early voting, 2024 general election. Texts started coming to our campaign, and calls started coming in and say, hey, Jay, we didn't see your name on the ballot. ES&S electronic voting system. We weren't even on there. Not for everybody. It was very interesting. It was targeted. It was like at the independents and like the swing Dems, all of the MAGA red, which is kind of few on the border. They saw my name, but it was the other folks that maybe wouldn't care or notice or whatever that would have swinged over because Henry Cuellar was currently criminally indicted on a very bad charge, or had him dead to rights for taking money and influence for foreign governments, not our own. So that was, and we started taking more calls. We said, okay, man, this might be a real thing. And so about the third day we took those calls in at an increased pace, we deployed a text to all voters, no matter what flavor they were, in Webb County. And we said simply, hey, did you see my name? Did you see this name on the ballot? And we put up a little thing. It would have looked like this. It kind of did a mock of the ballot. Did you see my name here? Like that, and the question, was responded to by thousands. No, we did not see your name on the ballot. That was, shocking. That was enough data to be very significant. And then we started working through that list as soon as the election was over. We collected that all the way through. We did a couple of those test cased through the weeks in early voting and election day, in fact. And then when we lost last minute, we thought, okay, hold up. So we and I couldn't get Webb County to do anything for us. So we were sitting there, trying to do our civic duty and say, look, Judge, it's not working. Your election seems to be broke. We did an election challenge. I will never get these months back in my life, but we challenged every ballot there. We did, a recount. They made me, because we challenged every ballot because it was so flawed. We wanted a forensic copy, and they wouldn't let us do it digitally. State of Texas Secretary of State, who is not, let's just put it in the rhino category. The state of Texas and Webb County held it to me. I had to personally hand copy with the copier all 66,000 ballots. That was what they said I had to do. I got through 25,000 before they said, oh, he might actually accomplish this, and stop me from doing it. And so we got all that data in. It was enough to do a statistically relevant sample of like, look, these anomalies here don't make sense. I can't tell you how many voters I saw voting for one Democrat or one Republican, but it was like, weird. Like they voted for me and Colin Allred, or they voted for Henry Cuellar and Trump. I mean, it didn't make any sense. And these are, if you have enough of those, no place makes sense like that. They can say, hey, these are anomalies beyond, and we can actually then draw in, to what precincts and try to do the forensic pull, the string trick. So I'm really going into long. I don't know how long format we are, sir, but this accelerated now. We did that challenge all the way through. That petition's in front of Congress right now. The Secretary of State really kind of they didn't even produce the right ballot canvas certificate for the U.S. House Admin Committee, who is the one that investigates these things. They produced the old one and not the recanvass one. So we were getting pushback, and that delayed our filing. And so that 8-point petition is there right now. I don't expect it to go anywhere, but it was worth having to know that we're going to look inside under the hood. We were running in 28 last time, and then redistricting happened. God bless the president. Inspired the big, beautiful map here in Texas. I'm one of now 5 new counties. I live in the same address, but I got redistricted to Texas 35. And this is going to be one of the Alamos where we save this country. This is a place where it makes sense now. We ungerrymandered from downtown Austin, Texas to downtown San Antonio, pencil stripe I-35 connected to, and they called that a natural district. So now it looks like South and East San Antonio and the 3 counties to the east and south of it. And it's just this nice oval, and we're neighbors, and we share a lot of the same problems, and, it makes sense. That's where I'm running. Since it was an open seat and Greg Casar, the communist Democrat, vacated and ran up to go try to take Lloyd Austin's old seat, we're 11 candidates in this race. But hey, we're really excited right now because we just 11 Republicans, and we're in R7 now. So we're going to be pretty much done at the primary. We're going to run hard all the way through, but we're pretty much done. And running hard is kind of like the town hall format. Running hard is understanding the issues and getting to know the voters better. Running hard after the primary is going to look like modeling being in office and doing a lot of constituency representation and constituency contact. So Right now, though, my 10 competitors, God love them. I'd say almost all of them are patriots, but 3 of them are rhinos. And my job in life is to keep out the same kind of people that got us into the Biden border, the Biden inflation, and all the rest of it, who aided and abetted the Democrat bloc vote. And so I'm running hard at those guys. I am tied for first place right now in this race. We just got a poll back on Sunday. It's a rigorous poll. And it has me at, since there's so many people in here, the numbers are a little low, but it has me 18% tied, two of the leading candidates, 18%. One is rated the most liberal Republican in the Texas legislature, and my competitor who's tied with me. And then the next guy back is like 10 points behind us, double digits behind us. He's Monica De La Cruz's brother. But he just popped up out of nowhere and what have you, but we're not worried about him. It doesn't even, it's not going to, he can't make enough ground between now and then to make it work. And to me, he sounds a lot like folks that I don't, that I talked to in DC when I began this and didn't want to get in the job. So, not to judge a man, but it doesn't read well for me. Not what somebody I want for my rep. If some of my other competitors were up here and lock this down, who are like hardcore MAGA conservative, I'm going to back. And my whole thing right now is back the president. He's our commander in chief. This ship, to use Navy metaphors, can go in one direction, one rudder, and we're a battle short right now. And if we don't lean into this moment as a country, and to draw on a football analogy, I keep telling folks, hey, don't get complacent. The president caught the football. Imagine this. We have so little time between now and this primary midterm and the midterm in November to prove to the American people Trump policies work and to give them more fire support to make them work. We had to score on kickoff effectively. So all that happened on 2024 to November 5th is the president masterfully caught the ball on kickoff, and he's running as hard as he can up the middle. I've never seen like it. Greatest president of all time. I mean, the amount of work that man puts out is absolutely head spinning. I feel like he's Atlas carrying our globe as a nation. I think the plea is we all have to get around him and do a wedge up the middle blocking maneuver to get over the line of scrimmage to save the nation for all people. And I keep on telling that story. So my number one priority is supporting the president. Full stop. End of story. So long as leadership does that, I'm their man. I'm their man. If Michael Johnson continues like he's doing a very good job, he's got probably the hardest, behind the president, he's got the second hardest job in the world, keeping those cats, in one bag. And I wouldn't, that is a massively tough job. But he is absolutely supporting the president's agenda. We have to codify the thing, and that's what we need up there. I just read an article today in Fox News. We are projected possibly to have a one-person majority in Congress, in the House of Representatives. It's razor thin right now. It took 4 months to get the big, beautiful bill through. We can't get DHS funding right now. We can't get the Save America Act done right now because of these slim numbers, and that's how the swamp likes to keep it. It's like the competition, two choices that never, there's no choice for people. And so here we are. We're running right at this thing. We've got a couple of weeks to go before the vote. It's looking really, really good. And all this, now I'm like, okay, this makes sense, Lord. This makes awesome sense. And I just talked to all my fellow, candidates, and now they're starting to endorse me, my fellow competitors, and so that's super humbling. Other patriots on the trail. So that's where we're at right now, and that's where we're going. And we think this is an everybody district. You can, my appeal to everybody across the nation when we engage. I hold a daily town hall. I should have put that up here. Every day at 4 p.m. Central, I get on live, and that's meant to have access to the candidate. And I tell them, I hand out my phone number. I say, hey, look, I'm applying for a job with almost 800,000 people. And, if I work for you, you need my number, not a shtick. I take the calls. I call people back I miss because it rings off the hook. It's on vibrate right now. But, it's important because we need access and accountability, from the top down. And it doesn't need to be the top anymore. The citizen is the sovereign, and we've forgotten that. And the citizen, though, has abdicated that. And I'm like, hey, we're at fault, folks. If we don't send Trump reinforcements, we're toast. If we don't shore up the 70% that don't pay attention to elections, or at least the 30%, storm the streets and collar everybody to get out, we're the ones to blame for squandering our kids' future in this opportunity. So that's who I'm about. Where am I going, and what's in the state of the race right now? And I'll stop, running wild with my monologue here. But take any questions you have, sir.
Well, so everything you said, I mean, it's on point, spot on. The thing that makes it different for you this year and when I ran is that it's tough to focus on policy right now when you know the biggest policy the Democrats have if they take the House is impeach. Um,
Right.
so it's hard for people running to say, and here's my number one priority, because like for me, my number one priority is always veterans. The second priority is always military. If I was to say that, it, I guess I wouldn't be totally honest and transparent, because the number one priority is really protecting President Trump from another impeachment and then 2 more years of absolutely nothing getting done. Um,
Right.
but Veterans for America, you were talking about the border. Yeah, you notice the saying is America first. It's the saying isn't America only. It's America first,
Mm-hmm.
which means if you have 34 million Americans, almost 35 million Americans living at or below the poverty level, how can you continue to send trillions of dollars all over the world? The head of the EU was speaking about Marco Rubio's speech, saying, why is he attacking us? The EU is the number one supporter of the poor all over the world. Yeah, but what about the poor within your walls? I mean, if we all
Right.
took care of the poor people within our borders for 10 years,
Right. Right.
you'd have 100 times more money to take care of the poor around the world. But how could you justify sending even a cent outside the border when you have people living in poverty here? So America
Right.
first, I always say, is not America only. It's like, let's just take care of Americans here. And on top of that, Veterans for America First, I wrote a bill on the Veterans for America First called the Veterans First Act of 2026. And
Awesome.
and it really focuses on veterans are not just a demographic that you can count on to vote on the right. Um,
Mhm.
if you have a veteran who's a Republican and his wife may be a Democrat and his kids may be Democrats, and you take care of that veteran, you increase their health care, you increase their education, you increase housing, you're going to get those votes because that's what veteran families do. Um,
Right.
so it's going to be tough for you. I know you're going to win, but it's going to be tough for you to maneuver up there because you want to do the right thing. We're mission focused as military members, and the mission is take care of the 800,000 people in my district. However, we know there's something going on in there with the deep state, with the NGOs, with the WEF, with the Open Society, um, to use this weapon that they call multiculturalism. They like these titles to make it seem like it's going to make everything beautiful. No, what multiculturalism is get rid of culture and have one
Yep.
culture. Um,
Yep.
and that's how the nations are destroyed. And so you have a lot on your plate. I mean, you're not only trying to bring back resources to the people in your district, you're no BS. You're defending a nation like you've never defended it before because the enemy isn't there in a patterned uniform with a different helmet on or hat and a different weapon. And you're like, okay, there he is. Now it's
Right.
where are they? Are they crossing the border? Are they
Yep.
here? You saw what they were talking about with China, flying women over, having babies, flying them back, and now they're citizens and they're in the CCP. Um,
Yep. It's total warfare.
yeah, and we let it happen because we took our eye off the ball. And we
We
can
did.
never do that again. We can never be afraid to attack the words they use, like multiculturalism, and say, no, I want the border sealed. I want 10 years, me personally, I want them to shut down immigration for 10 years. I want them to shut down refugee programs, shut down asylums, get 34
Yep.
million people out of poverty, and then build a program to vet every single person coming in because it's no longer bring me your poor, your downtrodden, it's our enemies using our love and our welcoming sense of American culture as a weapon against us. So, man, I'm going to pray for you because
Thank you.
um, this isn't a congressional seat like in the 20s and 30s or 2000. You're a congressional. You will be a congressional member at war, and as long as that mentality stays there and you're able to get that out to your constituents, like, hey, listen, I'm going in there to fight for you, to bring resources back to help you, but we're at war with an invisible enemy almost. And I know you know that because you were at the border. We have to teach our kids we can never drop the ball again, because there are people out there who will try to destroy this nation. And it's that bad. I'm not being a doomsday.
It is
It's that bad.
no, not at all. Not at all. And I don't think, and that was the beginning of my message. Like, say, let me just tell you, what this looks like overseas. And then trying to get people to say, oh, wait, okay, maybe that's happening in the country. That's happening. And I said, no, this is all scripted. You read The Naked Communist, the kind of the manifesto or treatise on American Communist Party. My wife and I read that 20 years ago. We thought, oh, that's, they're not going to, there's 50 items they had to accomplish.
Do you know who started this?
Who's that?
That guy over your right shoulder. When I worked
Yes.
with the DIA, Obama was president. I remember him saying radical Islam, radical Islam. He would use that term. And I remember the stories coming back that Obama wasn't happy with him using the term radical Islam. And he said, well, that's what it is. There is something going on with radical Islam, and they want to move. The Open Society people, the WEF, the EU, these NGOs, they were saying, how do we bring down a Christian nation? How do we destroy it from within? If you bring Spanish, Mexican people to the United States, they're Christian, they're very family oriented, and they love to work. It's not going to destroy your society. But when you bring in an ideology that has, in its text, hate towards Christians and Jews, there's going to be a problem assimilating. Some may, but he used to say radical Islam is using Islam to take down, not using Muslims, using Islam to take down nations. And he was told, stop saying it, stop saying it, stop saying it. And then they said, you got to go. And that's when I knew that was the man, that he stood up to the president and said, you're going to have to fire me.
Yeah, no, that's what we need. We need people that aren't, it was so disheartening. And we're a little more privileged maybe, because if you, self-select, go to the military, I don't know. The Border Patrol was absolutely just throttled in the Biden era, right? The suicide rates were higher than the military. And it used to be said that the Border Patrol is about a quarter corrupt, making a little money on the side. It's a cash economy on the border, all that. That's the heritage. But these are people that wanted, and they would reason, these are people who want to get in. It's always been part of the Texas economy, all that. We grew up with illegals in Texas. We all Texans, and say I did. But it wasn't an anomaly. But it was as you say, exactly as you say. It was a Latin culture that assimilated family, the most honest, hardworking folks you ever meet, and they took that heritage, but used it, because Texas and Mexico always can become one. The Tejanos, as we say, and the Texians fought in the Alamo together. We have Captain Seguin, right next to Daniel Bowie, and we formed this. If you moved to Texas before we were a republic, our own independent republic, you had to marry a Spanish lady or a Mexican lady, but it was Spain overlorded, to be landed. So we have a blended culture, but our border was something just like our freedoms, as you well said. We are a loving people. We're taking advantage of all the time. Well, in this case, Texas in particular, they ran into our border. People at first would say, well, it's not so odd. It's, this happens, whatever, and kind of just, waved it on. Well, it was a proverbial, frog boiling in the pot and hiding in plain sight, which is the best camouflage, sort of operation against us. So we are at a critical mass. They've got the stormtroopers in here. They're strategically patient. We have the insider threat is the worst, and I call those, as you said, the deep state, and I agree with that. And then we have the status quo politics bolted on top of that. With the money tilt pointed at them. I call it the national laundromat. Look at the Medicaid fraud. If we looked under that hole in the national hood, we could probably bounce the books immediately. So yes, and inflating the dollar to oblivion and the no kidding, the attack through our border were the two main strikes on our flanks, but directly at our heart. All the other stuff, which is incredibly important, the cultural attacks, were meant to distract us for those two main line attacks, in my opinion. And again, I've seen this before. We've done it to other countries before. Ukraine is an invention. The Iron Maiden Revolution is an advent of our own Undersecretary of State at the time. And that's out. I mean, that's open. It's an Obama creation. So I agree with you. Every time I saw money overseas, about half of it flittered away. And we are absolutely draining our futures out from under us doing so. But now inflation is down to 2.4%. I mean, real GDP is up. That private wages are up. We're heading in the right direction. The tariff regime is a brilliant rebalancing act and creating a fair playing field, and actually respecting our leverage, our market leverage. So I can't agree with you more. The job is to defend the president right now in Congress so we can get it done. Now, we have three branches of government. We should have balance of powers. We should have that's meant for accountability. But the system's broken. Why? Because as John Adams so well said, we don't have a moral and engaged people. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to crowdsource our democratic process back for this republic. So I cannot agree with you more. Go ahead. Sorry.
I hope when you get in there, you do something about these judges who are just constantly. I saw a judge today was telling President Trump he had to. I forgot what Trump had stopped funding something, and they told him he had to. It's slipping my mind, but these activist judges, we need the speaker to have some people supporting him to say we've had it with these judges who are purposely obstructing the president. But a couple of things that I wanted to run by you. So I went into the Navy in 1986. And in I guess it was a couple. What?
That was a good year. Sorry.
Yeah, a couple of years.
Yeah, go ahead.
What?
No, I'm sorry. There's a delay. I keep interrupting you. Go ahead, sir.
So only maybe a couple of years prior to that, they came out with the Montgomery GI Bill, which turned into the post 9/11. So talking about the early 80s. The brains of the military and our congressional leaders and Senate leaders felt that a 4-year degree was what veterans needed when they came out. So you're talking 2086, 96, 2006, 16, still got almost 40 years ago. We thought a bachelor's degree is what a veteran needed to succeed. We still believe the same thing. So part of our Veterans for America First bill is we need to make the GI Bill to include a master's degree. I mean, we got to get with the times. Bachelor's degree is just, there are other things that we can do. If you have TRICARE for life, which I have, I'm 100% service connected. Also, if you're a retiree, what happens when you turn 65? You go on Social Security, right? What happens when you're Social Security? Now you go on Medicare. So Medicare becomes your primary. Now you have premiums.
Right.
If Congress can have their own medical plan, so should. If you have TRICARE for life, we need to pass a bill that TRICARE, you never go on Medicare. There's no money exchange. If you just say you're taking TRICARE for life forever, there's the government is not losing money. It's just making it easier for a veteran to pay their bill, to get their health care. Here's another one. So right now, when you buy a house under the VA program, right, the VA backs your loan, but you're still paying 7%, 6%, whatever it is. So I thought, what is a way that President Trump can make loans for veterans at 2%?
Okay.
If he did that, and the interest rate was 6%, that means the federal government's got to subsidize that 4% to the lenders, right?
Right.
The lenders at 6%, and Trump says, well, you can only charge them 2%. That lender needs to make that 4%, or else they can't afford, to what's the word I'm looking for? Work that loan. But what if the VA gave out the loans themselves at 2%? So if the government lends the money to a veteran, $500,000 at 2%, guess what? The government's
Right.
making 2% on their money.
Right. And
So,
it's its own self-supportive feedback loop.
and you're not increasing taxes. And no one could say, and
Yeah.
everyone wants to say take care of veterans, but if you're paying
Mhm.
3% to cover that difference between what the lender is lending out and what you're saying they have to lend out, you're going to go broke. You could talk about $50 billion. Why don't we just make the
Right.
government the lender for veterans? Cut out the
Hmm.
middleman. So
No,
there's
I
so
agree.
many things in
Well,
this bill. I'll send it to you.
no, I
You
would love
can
to see
do.
it. The one you wrote in 2006, you said?
Yeah, but
Okay.
these things
So,
are.
and you have GI Bill, TRICARE for life, and VA loans and all of it?
Yeah, and there's a couple other things. There's Shelley, you know, remember when Trump wrote the right to try
Mhm.
for medications? You know, if someone was dying of cancer and there was this experimental drug somewhere,
Right.
the insurance company had to cover it. What about us?
Yes, sir.
There's so many gene therapy. There's testosterone. There's HGHs, plasma replacement therapy. There's stem cell. For me, on Friday, I'm going in for my 14th surgery, and the following Friday, my 15th. I can't go up my stairs sometimes. Why are veterans not able to? Why we need to create a right to try for veterans for all these experimental drugs that these rich and famous people paying $1 million
Right.
for stem cell,
Right.
when stem
Right.
cell has been shown to regenerate. PRP is
Mhm.
Kobe Bryant was flying to like Germany to get PRP treatment on his knees, and he swore
Right.
by it. If a service disabled veteran has an injury to sustain when they were in the military, there should be no expense. That's too
Okay.
much to get them to be out of pain. I'm in pain 24 hours a day. I have an amazing wife. I have 2 kids. If I'm having a bad day, I have the most amazing support structure. What about the ones who don't? What about the
Right.
ones who, like when I'm in pain and my 15-year-old daughter comes in here, attacks me, and we start laughing? It kind of puts it out of your head. But what about the ones that don't have that? We need to get them the best care. So I don't want to hold you up that long. I'm going to send you this
No, you're
bill. I'm
not.
going to send you
This
some
is
other
great.
things. The Halo
Okay.
law. We need to get the Halo law passed down in Texas. You ever hear the Halo
Halo
law?
law. Got it. Yep. I am.
So I wrote that in 2018 in New York, and I called
Really?
it the 3 Foot Safety Act because I
Okay.
saw, well, maybe it was 2020, whenever the Summer of Love happened, you carried a
Mhm.
sidearm, you carried a weapon. How do you draw your weapon from your side or from the front if someone's in your face with a camera?
Right.
So if you got
Right.
someone in the face of a law enforcement officer like this, they're thinking, I got to protect my weapon. I got to protect myself. How do I protect everyone around me? If you give them a
Agreed.
buffer zone, like they're taught
Right.
in their police academies, keep a 21-foot reactionary gap between you and
Mhm.
someone who may be looking to cause you harm.
Right.
So I wrote this 3 Foot Safety Act because I figured it's about 3 feet between you and being able to draw. I
Sure.
testified before the House and Senate in Georgia. They're passing it's now 25-foot safety rule, hands off law enforcement. It's the Halo Act. It's passed in Florida. It's passing in Georgia. It's passing in South Carolina. We can pass a national Halo law that says every state, every police officer in the country is now protected by a 25-foot safety act. These phones can videotape clearly at 25 feet.
Sure.
Let's get these agitators both of those deaths in ICE would have been no deaths if we had a national Halo law and they told
Yep.
you get back 25 feet. My camera's videotaping it. If you do not, it's an obstruction charge.
Yep.
So
5,000% agree. And we should start with our federal law enforcement, and that should be everywhere. If they're, conducting the national security mission internal, homeland, it's insane to me that we don't have that follows. Now, we don't want a national police force, absolutely. And I'm a Republic man, we're 50 states, we push things down to the lowest level. Awesome. But they're doing a national security mission, especially, that we've had invaders. To me, this actually justifies Insurrection Act stuff for the president. It's triggered this. I don't believe in posse comitatus. I mean, posse comitatus is a big issue. I do believe but I don't, and I absolutely believe in civil separation, civil, civilian control of the military. You shouldn't, have occupying federal troops and homes. I mean, we fought off a, overlord, to begin with, just to get to this place. But the thing is, the front, as we both said, is everywhere now. And not that we can use that excuse to violate people's Bill of Rights, and we should not. But it's simple. You can show them the law. They don't even get the same due process, and we need to have a national conversation. It's if they're marching on a warrant, for these folks, they're already kicked out of the country. And to say that you can't go into a private residence after an illegal who shouldn't be here, they don't have the same rights as a citizen. And so flip that around, people trying to execute that mission, which is intractable. I mean, it reminds me of some of the worst missions in Africa, some of the worst insurgencies there, Helmand province, whatever. This is now, and we have Americans as there's collateral around everywhere here. So it's a really hard mission. I agree with you. HALO law we should have a national HALO law for federal law enforcement, first off. And I don't think 287B should be, that's where the local law enforcement, should, support and lend police assistance to federal troops. I don't think that should be optional. I think if you are an enjoined state to the republic, if you enjoy the national security that the national, defense apparatus provides you, you should absolutely, as a sheriff, who's the highest ranking, the law enforcement official, and in anywhere in any place in the country, local, then you should have to give them, all of the, assistance and all of that. So, the places that's working, there's no problem. And that's 97% of the places. They're getting people out as quick as possible. So, and we're running out of time with those guys. They're wanting to hang out as long as they can to then mess up our election come November. I'm convinced. And, at some point they're going to start hitting critical infrastructure. I tell my constituents here all the time, look, let me tell you how simple this is. It just takes 12 dudes with a big lighter to surround the 7th largest city in the country, San Antonio, and start fires on a ring, just asymmetric warfare, let those become fires that our first responders have brush fires and that suck our first responders out of the center of the city. And then the criminals know when there's opportunity, and they'll walk right through your 2 panes of glass, your deadbolt the door, and granddad's shotgun, because they come from places with high walls and embedded glass at the top where, you protect your own. We live under a first responder model. All they have to do is overwhelm our first responder systems like that, like the BLM 2020 and whatever. You mentioned the Summer of Love. Then we're toast. I mean, and they do that on scale. It goes viral on social media. They use encrypted apps to coordinate, or to just do like the Juniper Spring or the Arab Spring. That's the model that's already stamped here. And Minnesota, or Minneapolis rather, I think was a warm up. And if Palantir, the enabler for the homeland, doesn't, and our homeland ICE officers and all of them doing that don't have absolute horsepower right now, then we're all going to be living that reality. So I can't agree more. HALO law, I love your bill. If this is all in one, that's amazing. The GI bill. Well, okay. And then the GI Bill, I can't agree more. I think it should be a master's. I like how they do, skills stuff as well. But, sometimes you have to burn extra time that doesn't make sense, reciprocal wise, credit semester hour to like welding or aviation. Sometimes they burn you 2 to 1. So I completely agree. We need some revamping there. TRICARE for life. I agree. I mean, I'm sick. Well, now I have 2 kids in the military now, but so we're 6th generation military. TRICARE, I mean, that's a real issue. What you describe is exactly, we understand implicitly in my family. And that's, you said the VA loan as sort of a, reciprocal self, supporting system. TRICARE for life could be too. We're talking about co-op medical. And the VA system's overwhelmed, and they try to have, from cradle to grave medical care. Okay. This one model, I'm not sure it works. What if we took those resources, and probably could take a lot less, to actually, do a medical co-op? and the single payer system through the co-op. I don't know if you know like these co-ops in America, but they began in the Christian community. The
Oh yeah,
idea is
yeah,
that it's
yeah.
a medical association. Okay, so why don't we make that an option for our folks? Then you've got absolutely just like the presidents do with Trump RX. You've got buying power. You've got the leverage of that entire that body that's contributing through the government in this case. That you could absolutely, buy down, procedures and buy down whatever on the market and let the market most efficiently provide it. And then I completely agree with your alternative medicine or your experimental medicine thesis. COVID taught me that medicine's an industry, full stop. It does good stuff. You're getting surgery. The surgeons, I'm sure, excellent and well trained, but a lot of what the system is medical HMOs and pharma pushing doctors for conclusions that are actually at the bottom line. If you look, is a profitable bottom line. It's not necessarily your end result healthcare. And it's only the doctors stand in that breach, but they can't if they're told what to do by those two other entities. So, the pharma lobby is twice that of the defense lobby. That's something I learned during the COVID.
Oh yeah.
It's insane. So, I amen on all that. And the other thing, I wrote these down. The other thing that we just talked about is the HALO law. So, I mean, I think it's fantastic. I think we're in alignment. I'd love to see that. I'd love to show up on day one with like, hey, all right, now that we took care of the big things, let's start, chipping away at this other stuff. Let's go arrest the crooks. Let's finish doging the swamp. But let's go and let's, take care of these things that are a matter of business, that are in the bailiwick of the federal government, that we should be doing and doing well. If we're doing less up there, we can do what we do up there much better.
We saw how much waste there was with USAID, and we saw how much fraud there were in Somaliland and all these other places. The money's there. Let's get it down to veterans. But I don't want to hold you up any longer.
Yes, sir.
I think, first of all, you're the commander. I'm only the captain.
Yes, Chief. Aye.
You're an amazing candidate. You're an amazing American. You are exactly what this country needs. And I have an 11-year-old son, and I always say to my son, your daddy's not always going to be everything to you. Look around for other people out there that you may want to pull. Hey, this guy does something that I like. This guy does something I like. You don't have to model yourself 100% after me, but I'll tell you, you're the type guy that I think most men would say, if I wasn't here, I would like my son to model themselves after you. So keep up that kind of work. You're a type guy who can get this country back on track. We are honored to be giving you our endorsement, and we will do whatever we can. I got a lot of friends, influencers down there in Texas. I'm going to be giving out our endorsement to them and let them do their thing. But
thank you, sir.
Commander, thank you. I hope you accept our endorsement. You're going to do great things.
Great humility.
We're going to be behind you every step of the way.
Thank you, sir. Chief, appreciate you.
Well, I was a petty officer, not a chief.
No, well, okay. Petty officer, again, so the E6s were absolutely, so the chiefs, they carried the coffee, but the E6s were out there running the show in truth.
Well, the E4s were the mafia.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, did they? Okay. What was your rate?
Well, I was a petty officer, 3rd class in the Navy, and then I got out and went back in, I don't know, 8 years later into the Army.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. I love it. We're an Army Navy family. I have a boy at West Point. So, we're cross-decking here too. Yes, sir. That's awesome. So awesome.
Yeah, everyone asks me when there's the Army Navy game, what do you do? I say, I sit on the 50-yard line.
That's right.
Yay on this hand, yay on this hand.
That's right. I win.
Yeah. All right, sir. It's been a great time. We wish you the best. We'll be behind you every step of the way.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Godspeed in the surgery.
Same with you. Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hold on one sec.